Heavy black clouds covered the sky above Harbor City on a rainy evening. The lights from the tall buildings in the center of the city reflected across the wet streets, turning the night into a giant maze made of gold and silver. The tallest of those buildings was Cole Tower. The word Cole glowed in red letters at the top of the 68-story skyscraper and could be seen from miles away. Everyone in Harbor City knew that name. For decades, the Cole family had influenced the city's construction, transportation, energy, and technology industries. They had built hospitals, schools, bridges, and residential neighborhoods. At the same time, countless rumors surrounded their wealth and power. Some people called Richard Cole the man who had saved the city from poverty. Others believed that dark secrets were hidden behind his success. But Richard Cole was no longer alive. He had died 3 weeks earlier in a car accident on a mountain road. The police claimed that the brakes had failed and closed the investigation as a tragic accident. Investigators announced that they had found nothing suspicious. Richard's only son, Ethan Cole, tried to believe that conclusion. Yet deep in his heart, he felt that something was wrong. Ethan sat alone inside his father's office. Rainwater slowly ran down the windows. The only sound in the large room was the quiet ticking of an antique clock. Sitting in his father's black leather chair still felt unnatural. A silver pen, a pair of glasses, and a blue notebook with folded corners lay on the desk. Although everything remained exactly where Richard had left it, the office seemed colder than before. At the age of 32, Ethan had become the sole owner and chief executive officer of Cole Industries. The total value of the assets under his control was worth several $1 billion. He was no longer simply one of the youngest millionaires in Harbor City. He had become one of its most powerful billionaires. However, during the past 3 weeks, Ethan had learned that wealth could be completely meaningless. Money could not bring his father back. His phone rang. The name Daniel Price appeared on the screen. Daniel had been Ethan's closest friend since childhood and was now the chief financial officer of Cole Industries. Ethan might have doubted anyone else in the company, but he trusted Daniel completely. "Are you still at the office?" Daniel asked. "Yes." "The board meeting is tomorrow at 8 in the morning. Investors are nervous after your father's death. We need to show them that the company is stable." "I know." "Go home, Ethan. You haven't slept properly in 3 weeks." Ethan looked out of the window. "Daniel, did my father say anything unusual to you the day before he died?" There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "No." "Why?" "It's nothing. He seemed worried during his final days." Richard was always thinking about work. You know that. The police checked everything. It was a tragic accident. "Yes. Maybe." Daniel said goodbye and ended the call. Ethan stood up and reached for his coat. At that moment, he noticed a black envelope that had been pushed under the office door. He rushed into the hallway. The corridor was empty. 2 security guards stood near the elevators. Neither of them had seen anyone unfamiliar enter the floor. Ethan returned to the office and opened the envelope. There was a single sheet of white paper inside. A message had been written in black ink. "Your father's death was not an accident. Come alone to Pier 17 at midnight. If you contact the police or bring security, the truth will disappear forever." At the bottom of the page was the red image of a chess king. Ethan immediately recognized the symbol. It belonged to one of Harbor City's most dangerous criminal organizations, the Cross family. People throughout the city called them the Black Crown. Their leader was Adrian Cross. There was very little official information about him. The police believed that Adrian controlled dozens of illegal businesses, but they had never been able to gather enough evidence to convict him. Even powerful businessmen lowered their voices whenever Adrian's name was mentioned. Ethan read the letter again. It could be a trap. The company's shares had started falling after his father's death. Competitors were trying to weaken Cole Industries. Someone might have wanted to frighten Ethan and force him to give up control of the company. But he could not bring himself to throw the letter away. At 11:30 that night, Ethan left the office. He told his security team that he was going home and drove out of the parking garage in his personal car. After traveling several blocks, he switched vehicles and entered a simple gray sedan that he had rented earlier. Pier 17 was located in the old industrial district. Hundreds of cargo ships had once arrived there every month. Now most of the warehouses were abandoned, and only a few streetlights worked. Ethan stopped the car in front of an old warehouse. The clock reached midnight. He stepped outside and walked against the cold wind coming from the sea. Ethan Cole. The voice came from the darkness. Two tall men appeared near the warehouse entrance. They checked that Ethan was not carrying a weapon and told him to go inside. A single table stood in the middle of the warehouse. A man wearing a black suit sat behind it beneath a hanging light. Silver had begun to appear in his hair, but his face still looked young and controlled. There was no fear or urgency in his eyes. It was Adrian Cross. I wasn't sure the millionaire heir would actually come alone, Adrian said. What do you know about my father?
No greeting.
You did not invite me here to discuss manners. Adrian smiled. You are definitely Richard's son. He always went directly to the main issue as well. Ethan approached the table. Did you know him? For 25 years. My father did not associate with people like you. Then you knew very little about your father. Adrian removed a small metal object from his pocket and placed it on the table. It was one half of a broken silver key. Have you ever seen this? Adrian asked. Ethan shook his head. Your father had the other half. What does it open? A vault that could save your family or destroy it forever. Ethan stared into Adrian's eyes. Who killed my father? Someone close to you. Tell me the name. I cannot. Not yet. Then coming here was a waste of time. Ethan turned toward the exit. Richard called me 2 days before he died, Adrian said behind him. He had discovered that someone inside Cole Industries was sending information to an organization called the Crown Circle. Ethan stopped. What is the Crown Circle? A group of people who secretly control the city. Bankers, judges, owners of construction companies, and politicians. They do not obey the law. When necessary, they simply purchase the people responsible for enforcing it. And what about you? Do you obey the law? Adrian lowered his eyes toward the key. I will not pretend that I am a good man. But there is a difference between people like me and the Crown Circle. We understand that we are responsible for what we do. They destroy innocent lives while presenting themselves as charitable leaders. Was my father one of them? He once was. The word struck Ethan like a physical blow. That is a lie. 30 years ago, Richard made a deal with them to save his company. You had not been born yet. Later, he discovered how deeply they were robbing and controlling the city, and he tried to leave. Why didn't he go to the police? Because some of the most senior officers worked for them. Adrian placed several photographs on the table. In one of them, a younger Richard Cole stood beside Adrian and several people Ethan did not recognize. The picture appeared to have been taken inside a restaurant more than 20 years ago. The second photograph showed the wreckage of Richard's car. Adrian pointed toward the brake system. Do you see that line? It was cut. The official police report says nothing about it. Ethan picked up the photograph. Where did you get this? From a man who arrived at the accident scene before the police. Why are you helping me? Adrian remained silent for several seconds. Because 20 years ago, your father saved my daughter's life. I owe him. What do you need from me? Find the other half of the key. Richard hid it somewhere meant specifically for you. Once the pieces are joined, we can access evidence powerful enough to destroy the Crown Circle. And what happens after we get it? You will look for justice. I will look for revenge. Ethan looked at the broken key. I will not help you take revenge. That is what you believe now. When you learn the identity of the person who killed your father, your opinion may change. The rain had stopped by the time Ethan left the warehouse, but the storm inside his mind had only begun. The next morning, the boardroom at Cole Tower was filled with directors. Ethan sat at the head of the long table. Daniel Price was on his right, while Olivia Grant, the head of the legal department, sat on his left. The directors discussed falling share prices, suspended construction projects, and the uncertainty of investors. We need stability, Daniel said. Vane Holdings is prepared to purchase 49% of the Harbour City Port development. The agreement would bring $3 billion into the company. We are not selling the port, Ethan said. It is not a sale. It is a partnership. My father always refused to work with Vane Holdings. Richard is no longer here, one of the directors said. We must rely on the market, not emotion. Ethan closed the document in front of him. The port project will create thousands of jobs. If Vane Holdings becomes involved, construction will be redirected, and most of the land will become private casinos and luxury hotels. Daniel leaned closer. If we reject their offer, the banks may demand that we repay our loans early. Why would they suddenly do that? The market has changed. Ethan remembered what Adrian had told him about the Crown Circle. Several of the largest banks in Harbour City were connected to Vane Holdings. We are postponing the decision, Ethan said. I will personally review every financial agreement. After the meeting, Daniel followed him into his office. What are you doing? Daniel asked. Protecting my company. You may bankrupt it within a month. Do you not find it suspicious that the banks began pressuring us immediately after my father died? Daniel placed both hands on the desk. Ethan, grief is affecting your judgment. Stop searching for enemies everywhere. I am not searching for enemies. Then where were you last night? Ethan's heart seemed to stop for a moment. What did you say? Daniel laughed quietly. The security team said you left the building alone and did not go home. I was wondering where you went. Ethan studied his face. I drove around the city. Alone? Yes. Daniel nodded. All right. I am only worried about you. He left the room. Ethan waited until the door closed. Daniel had not specifically mentioned Pier 17. Yet his question felt far too precise. That afternoon, Ethan began searching through his father's possessions. Richard's office at the family's country house had remained untouched. Hundreds of books, awards, and family photographs filled the shelves. Ethan opened every drawer and examined every document. There was no silver key. At 8 in the evening, someone knocked on the front door. It was Emily Carter. Emily had been one of Ethan's closest friends in school. They had later dated for several years, but their relationship ended after Ethan became completely consumed by the company. Emily now worked as an investigative journalist for the Harbour City Journal. She carried a bag filled with documents. I am sorry I waited so long to visit, she said. You were at the funeral. We were not able to speak. Ethan invited her inside. Emily saw the documents scattered across the office. Are you looking for something? I am reviewing my father's old business agreements. That may be connected to the reason I came. Emily removed several financial statements from her bag. $180 million disappeared from the Cole Foundation during the past 6 months. That is impossible. According to the documents, the money was used for hospitals and schools. But half of the listed projects do not exist. The accounts connected to the remaining projects belong to shell companies. Daniel manages the foundation. His signature is not on the orders. Every transfer was approved under Richard Cole's name. Ethan examined the documents. His father's electronic signature had been used. My father would never steal from a charitable foundation. I do not believe he did. That is why I have not published the story. Why are you helping me? Emily looked directly at him. Because Richard helped me get my first job. And because I do not want you to start suspecting everyone around you. Ethan remained silent. Emily, have you ever heard the name Crown Circle? Her expression changed. Where did you hear that? So you know it. Emily moved toward the window and closed the curtains. 2 years ago, I investigated a fire in the Northern District. Before the fire, Vane Holdings had tried to purchase the land. The residents refused to sell. 1 month later, their homes were destroyed. What does that have to do with the Crown Circle? A confidential source told me that several major companies were controlled from one central organization. He called it the Crown Circle. The next day, he disappeared. What did the police say? They claimed he had left the country. His family did not believe them. Ethan showed her the photographs Adrian had given him. She studied the image of the damaged brake line. Who gave you these? Adrian Cross. You met with a mafia boss. He said someone murdered my father. Ethan, Adrian Cross does not help people without expecting something in return. He claims he owes my father. A debt to the mafia is more dangerous than a debt to a bank. Ethan picked up Richard's blue notebook. But I think he was telling the truth about the key. The first pages contained ordinary business notes. On one of the final pages, Richard had written a sentence he often repeated when Ethan was a child. The true inheritance is not hidden in a safe. It is kept in the first place where you ever felt free. Emily read the sentence. Where did you first feel free? Ethan thought for a moment. His childhood had been filled with drivers, security guards, and strict schedules. But every summer, Richard had taken him to an old lake house far from the city. There, Ethan had been allowed to walk without security, fish, and build wooden rafts. The lake house, Ethan said. They left that same night. It took 2 hours to reach the property. The house was dark and surrounded by tall pine trees. Ethan opened the door with one of his father's old keys. Dust covered the furniture, but everything remained in place. A drawing Ethan had made when he was 10 years old hung on the living room wall. It showed him and his father sitting together in a boat. Ethan removed the picture from the wall. A small compartment had been built behind it. Inside was the second half of the silver key and a small audio recorder. Ethan pressed the play button. His father's voice filled the room. Ethan, if you are listening to this recording, then I was not able to tell you the truth myself. I am sorry. Ethan's hand began to tremble. When I first built coal industries, I made many mistakes. The company was close to bankruptcy when Victor Vane offered to help me. I accepted his money. Later, I discovered that the money had been earned through criminal activity. By then, it was too late. He forced me into his organization. Emily listened silently. The Crown Circle took control of businesses throughout the city. Anyone who resisted them lost their job, their home, or their reputation. Some people disappeared completely. I remained silent for many years. I told myself that I was protecting my family, but my silence allowed them to grow stronger. Richard took a heavy breath. During the past several years, I collected evidence of their payments and illegal agreements. The evidence is stored in a secret vault beneath Union Bank. Both halves of the key are needed to open it. Adrian Cross has the other half. Ethan looked at Emily. Do not trust Adrian completely, Richard continued. But he has more honor than Victor. I saved his daughter's life, and he promised to give you the evidence if I died. The recording went silent for several seconds. The most important issue is the traitor inside the company. I discovered his identity, but I cannot say his name in this recording. Someone may find it before you do. His name is written in the black ledger inside the vault. Trust no one, not even the person you consider a brother. The recording ended. Daniel immediately entered Ethan's mind. But he did not want to accept the possibility. Daniel was his closest friend. They had grown up together since the age of 12. When Ethan's mother died, Daniel stayed beside him. They shared a room at university. After joining the company, Daniel had saved Ethan from making several disastrous financial decisions. The person you consider a brother could be Daniel, Emily said quietly. My father did not say his name. You are protecting him. I will not accuse anyone without proof. A branch snapped outside. Emily moved toward the window. The headlights of 2 vehicles appeared between the trees. Someone followed us, she said. Ethan placed the key and recorder inside his coat and opened the back door. They ran into the forest. The front door was forced open behind them. Several people entered the house. Ethan and Emily rushed through the trees toward the lake. An old motorboat was still tied to the dock. Ethan tried several times to start the engine. Flashlights appeared behind them. Hurry! Emily shouted. The engine finally started. The boat pulled away just as the men reached the shore. They could not follow Ethan and Emily across the water. When they reached the opposite side, Ethan checked his phone. A message had arrived from an unknown number. We know you found the key. Give it to us by 6 tomorrow evening, or the people you love will suffer. The message included a photograph of Grace Cole leaving her house. Grace was Richard's sister. She had raised Ethan after his mother's death. Ethan called her immediately. Grace did not answer. By the time they returned to the city, Grace's home was empty. The door had not been broken, and the rooms had not been searched. Only her phone remained on the kitchen table. The police refused to begin an immediate search, claiming Grace might have left voluntarily. Ethan left the police station and called Adrian. They took Grace. Did you find the key? Adrian asked. Yes. Then we know why they took her. Help me get her back. Bring the key. We are going to Union Bank. Grace comes first. They will not release Grace unless we have the black ledger. Ethan tightened his grip on the phone. If anything happens to her. Save your anger for the person who kidnapped her, Adrian said. Meet me at the old opera house tomorrow at 9. The next day, Ethan did not go to work. Daniel called him several times. Ethan did not answer. The opera house had been abandoned for 20 years. Although the outside of the building was beginning to collapse, the red curtains and gold decorations inside still carried the beauty of another era. Adrian stood in the middle of the stage beside a dark-haired woman in her mid-20s. This is my daughter, Lily, Adrian said. Lily shook Ethan's hand. Your father saved my life, she said. When I was 7, I needed emergency heart surgery. My father could not legally leave the country. Richard brought the surgeons here and paid for everything. My father never told me. He did not advertise his kindness, Adrian said. Ethan showed them his half of the key. Adrian removed the other half. The two pieces fit together perfectly. We cannot simply walk into Union Bank and open the vault, Lily explained. The chairman of the bank is a member of the Crown Circle. The moment the key is used, Victor Vane will be notified. Is there another way? Emily asked. Lily spread an old architectural plan across a table. Union Bank was built above an abandoned railway tunnel that once extended beneath this theatre. One wall of the vault connects to the old tunnel. Are we breaking through the wall? Ethan asked.
No.
There is a maintenance door behind the vault. The key opens that entrance as well. Adrian looked at Ethan. We go tonight. I do not like the idea of illegally entering a bank. You can call the police if you prefer, but if you want Grace back alive, stop wasting time. That evening, Ethan returned to Coal Tower and met with Daniel. He wanted to test his reaction. Grace has disappeared, Ethan said. Daniel jumped from his chair. What happened? Someone took her because of a key. What key? Ethan carefully studied his face. Daniel appeared genuinely surprised. My father left a secret vault beneath Union Bank. Who told you that? Adrian Cross. Daniel's expression hardened. You are trusting a mafia boss. I found a recording from my father. What did he say? He spoke about the Crown Circle. Daniel remained silent for several seconds. Ethan, this could all be Adrian's plan. He may have created a fake recording so that he can take control of your company. It was my father's voice. Voices can be copied. Ethan turned toward the window. You may be right. Where is the key? Somewhere safe. Daniel placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Give it to me. I will contact the lawyers and federal investigators. Do not try to solve this alone. We will talk tomorrow. Ethan left. He did not see Daniel make a phone call immediately afterward. At midnight, Ethan, Emily, Adrian, and Lily entered the basement of the old opera house. The tunnel was cold and damp. Ancient lights along the walls produced a weak glow. After walking for nearly an hour, they reached the area beneath Union Bank. Lily opened a metal panel and temporarily disabled the security system. Adrian placed the completed key inside the maintenance door. The lock opened slowly. Hundreds of numbered safe deposit boxes filled the vault. The number Richard had mentioned was 472. Ethan inserted the key. Inside the box was a black leather ledger, several flash drives, and a sealed letter. The ledger contained records of payments made over many years. It listed judges, senior police officers, politicians, and businessmen. Each name was followed by an amount of money and a description of the task that person had performed. Emily began photographing every page. When Ethan reached the final section, he stopped breathing. Contact Inside Coal Industries, Daniel Price. Several payments were listed beneath his name. However, the records had begun only 6 months earlier. Daniel, Emily whispered. Ethan closed the ledger without speaking. He opened the sealed letter. It had been written by Richard. Ethan, do not accuse Daniel immediately. What he has done may be unforgivable, but you must understand his past before judging him. Victor Vane is Daniel's biological father. Daniel did not learn the truth until he was 18. Victor attempted to use him against our family. Daniel resisted for many years, but recently I noticed that the pressure was becoming too great. If I die, Daniel's betrayal may be connected to it. However, he is not the man who ordered my death. The true enemy is Victor. If there is any chance to save Daniel, do not see him only as an enemy. See him as a lost son. Ethan read the letter again and again. Daniel is Victor Vane's son. Emily asked. Adrian took the ledger. We have everything we need. Now we destroy Victor's empire. At that moment, the vault alarm activated. Red lights began flashing as the heavy doors started closing. They found us, Lily said. They escaped through the maintenance entrance and ran back into the tunnel. Security guards shouted behind them. The four of them rushed toward the theater. But halfway through the tunnel, armed men blocked their path. Daniel stood among them. Ethan stopped. Daniel was not holding a weapon, but the men around him closed the passage. Give me the ledger, Daniel said. Where is Grace? Ethan asked. She is safe. Did you kidnap her? Daniel lowered his eyes. I do not want anyone to get hurt. What did you do to my father's car? I told Victor where Richard was going, but I did not know he would sabotage the brakes. Ethan stepped toward him. You betrayed my father. Victor threatened to kill Grace. Daniel shouted. He said he would send people after you and Emily as well. I tried to stop Richard. I warned him not to travel that day, but he refused to listen. Why did you not tell me? Because I knew you would never forgive me. Adrian placed the ledger inside his coat. You can continue your family discussion later. Let us pass. Daniel shook his head. If Victor does not get the ledger, he will not release Grace. Where is she? At the Vane warehouse in the old port. Ethan moved closer. Help us. I am helping you. Give him the ledger, and all of us survive. Victor will kill you too once the evidence is destroyed. Daniel did not answer. One of the armed men spoke into a radio. At that moment, Lily switched off the tunnel lights. Darkness covered everything. Adrian's men entered from the opposite direction and opened an escape route. During the confusion, Ethan grabbed Daniel and pulled him against the wall. Come with us, Ethan said. I cannot. Victor is not your father. A real father does not use his son to hide his crimes. Tears appeared in Daniel's eyes, but he removed Ethan's hand. Save Grace. She is being held on the second floor, in the eastern part of the warehouse. The security code is 1987. He sent his men in the wrong direction, allowing Ethan and the others to escape. They spent the rest of the night planning inside one of Adrian's safe houses. Copies of the ledger were uploaded to several secure servers. Emily wanted to publish everything immediately. If we release it now, they will move Grace, Ethan said. If we give Victor the book, we lose the evidence. Lily held up copies of the flash drives. We can give him the original. We already have the information. Adrian shook his head. Victor will check whether it has been copied. Even then, he may not release Grace. Then we deceive him, Ethan said. That evening, Victor Vane personally called Ethan. Victor was over 60 years old and one of the most powerful businessmen in Harbor City. On television, he appeared as a kind investor who supported charities. Ethan, I am sorry about your father, Victor said calmly. I want to speak with Grace. Grace's voice came through the phone. Ethan, I am all right. Do not do what they ask. Victor took the phone again. Bring the black ledger to the port by 11 tonight. Come alone. Then Grace will go home. I agree. Do not attempt to bring Adrian Cross. Every camera in the port will be watching you. The call ended. Ethan sent Daniel a secret message. My father's final letter asked me not to see you only as an enemy. I am coming to the port. The choice is yours. At 11 that night, Ethan entered the port carrying a bag containing the black ledger. Victor Vane waited inside a large warehouse. About 10 security guards stood around him. Grace sat nearby with her hands tied. Daniel stood farther away, silent. Victor wore an expensive grey suit and carried a cane with a silver handle. I knew Richard's son would eventually make the intelligent choice, he said. Release Grace. The ledger first. Ethan placed the bag on a table. Victor removed the ledger and checked several pages. Your father and I built this city together, he said. But as he grew older, he began to see himself as a saint. He pretended that all his wealth had been earned honestly. He tried to correct his mistakes. The past cannot be corrected. But the future can be changed. Victor laughed. You are even more naive than your father. People do not want justice, Ethan. They want safety and money. I give them both. You took their homes, businesses, and freedom. A city cannot grow without order. Someone must make the decisions. Victor looked at Daniel. Check whether the ledger is real. Daniel took it and examined the first pages. Then he looked at Ethan. It is real, he said. Good. Release Grace, Victor ordered. One of the guards untied her hands. Grace began walking toward Ethan, but Victor raised his cane. Stop. We are not finished. Grace froze. Ethan, you will sign a document transferring all of your shares in coal industries to Vane Holdings. After that, both of you will leave this city. That was not our agreement. Powerful people change agreements. Ethan looked at the document. And if I refuse? Victor glanced toward Grace. Then this night will end tragically for everyone. Daniel suddenly spoke. Let her go. Victor turned. What did you say? You have the ledger. Keep your promise. Are you giving me an order?
No.
But I am no longer working for you. Victor's face became cold. I raised you from nothing. I gave you money, education, and power. You gave me nothing. Richard and Ethan gave me a family. You used me as a weapon to destroy that family. Victor signaled to the guards. Before they could move, police sirens sounded outside the warehouse. Several powerful lights shone through the windows. Victor looked at Ethan in fury. Did you call the police? No, Ethan said. The people watching the live broadcast called them. He pointed toward a tiny camera hidden in one of the buttons of his shirt. Emily was inside a vehicle several streets away, broadcasting the entire conversation online. Thousands of people had heard Victor confess. Copies of the ledger had already been sent to journalists, federal investigators, and independent prosecutors. Victor threw the book at Daniel. You betrayed me. I corrected my mistake, Daniel said. Victor attempted to escape through the rear exit. Adrian Cross appeared in front of him. Adrian was alone. For 30 years, you believed you were the king of this city, he said. But every kingdom eventually ends. Victor stepped backward. If they arrest me, you will fall too. Your name is inside that ledger. I know. Then why did you come? Because sometimes a man must accept punishment for his own crimes before he can be free. Adrian raised one hand and ordered everyone not to use their weapons. The police entered the warehouse. Victor Vane, his guards, and several associates were arrested. Adrian surrendered willingly. He promised to give federal investigators complete testimony about the Crown Circle. When police officers prepared to handcuff Daniel, Ethan stepped forward. He helped us. His name is connected to the investigation into Richard Cole's death, an investigator said. Daniel held out his hands. I am prepared to answer for what I did. Ethan approached him. Why did you not tell me earlier? Daniel lowered his eyes. I was afraid of becoming an enemy in your eyes. But the longer I remained silent, the more I became a real enemy. My father asked me to give you a chance to be forgiven. I do not deserve his forgiveness. The court will decide that. But you saved Grace, and tonight you made the right choice. The police took Daniel away. Grace embraced Ethan. Richard would be proud of you, she said. Ethan looked at the sun rising above the port. I spent my entire life trying not to become like him. You inherited his best qualities, not only his mistakes. During the following months, the largest criminal investigation in Harbor City's history began. The evidence inside the Black Ledger led to the arrest of dozens of senior officials and businessmen. Several judges were removed from office, and the entire city police department was investigated. Victor Vane's companies were ordered to return properties that had been obtained illegally. Daniel cooperated fully with investigators. He admitted that he had told Victor where Richard would be traveling, but evidence showed that he had not known about the plan to sabotage the car. The court considered his cooperation, his role in saving Grace, and his testimony against Victor. He was sentenced to several years in prison. Ethan visited him. They sat on opposite sides of the glass and remained silent for a while. "How is the company?" Daniel finally asked. "It did not collapse." "And the port project?" "It is continuing. But I changed the plan. Instead of luxury hotels, we are building affordable homes, a school, and a hospital." Daniel smiled faintly. Richard would have wanted that. "The company misses your financial reports." "I am sure you found someone better." "I did. But he does not call me at 3 in the morning to tell me that I made a mistake." Daniel lowered his head. "Ethan, I cannot ask you to forgive me. An apology is not enough for what I did." "I have not forgotten." "I know. But one day, you will leave this place. When that happens, you will have a chance to begin again." "You are still giving me a chance." "My father called you a lost son. A person who is lost can still find the road home." Daniel turned away to hide the tears in his eyes. "Thank you." Adrian Cross also confessed to the illegal activities committed by his organization. He faced a long prison sentence, but his testimony helped solve hundreds of criminal cases. Lily took control of her father's legitimate businesses. She closed every company connected to criminal activity and donated part of the remaining money to a fund for families harmed by organized crime. One day, Ethan visited Adrian in prison. "You told me that you wanted revenge," Ethan said. "And you said you wanted justice. In the end, neither of us killed Victor." Adrian laughed. "But I am still in prison." "You did not punish him with your own hands." "Lily did not want me to answer blood with more blood. Richard would not have wanted it either." Adrian moved closer to the glass. "Your father and I were very different men. But both of us were willing to cross every line for our families. The difference was that he eventually learned where to stop. I stopped too late. My father wrote that I could trust you. He thought too highly of me."
No.
"He believed you were still capable of making the right choice." Adrian remained silent for a moment. "Protect your company, Ethan. But do not allow wealth to control you." "Are you giving me advice?" "You should never ignore advice from an imprisoned mafia boss." For the first time, both men laughed freely. 1 year later, the renovated Harbour City port opened. The new district included homes, a children's hospital, a free technology school, and a business center for small entrepreneurs. City officials suggested placing a large statue of Richard Cole in the central square. Ethan refused. Instead, a simple stone monument was installed. Words were carved into it. "This place is not dedicated to people who never made mistakes. It is dedicated to those who had the courage to correct them." Thousands of people attended the opening ceremony. Emily stood behind the stage, adjusting Ethan's tie. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "I have been less nervous during billion-dollar negotiations." "Contracts do not stare at you." "The entire city has been staring at me since your article." Emily had received a National Journalism Award for her investigation into the Crown Circle. In her article, she did not describe Ethan as a hero. She described him as a man forced to confront the sins of his family. "I only wrote the truth," Emily said. "You wrote too few good things about me." A journalist's job is not to praise a billionaire. "If I invite you to dinner, will you come as a journalist or as Emily?" Emily smiled. "It took you an entire year to ask me. The last time I invited you, you said I valued the company more than I valued you. And now?" Ethan looked toward the children laughing in the square. "Now I understand that a company is only a tool. What matters is what you do with it." That was a good answer. "So you agree?" "If your speech is short, maybe." Ethan walked onto the stage. He placed the 10-page speech he had prepared back into his pocket. "1 year ago, when I fought to protect this port, I thought I was defending my family name and my company's wealth," he said. "But later, I understood that this city does not belong to one family or one corporation. It belongs to the people who work here, raise their children here, and believe in its future." The crowd became silent. "My father did many good things. He also made serious mistakes. His greatest mistake was hiding the truth because he believed secrecy would protect his family. But near the end of his life, he tried to correct that mistake. We often believe that being a good person means never doing anything wrong. In reality, a person is defined by the choices they make after they fail." Grace sat in the front row, wiping tears from her eyes. This port will not be the legacy of Richard Cole. It will be the legacy of the people of Harbour City. Every home, school, and hospital built here will remind us that no one should have to live in fear. The crowd applauded. After the ceremony, Ethan and Emily walked beside the sea. The sun was setting, and pink light reflected across the water. "Do you regret discovering your father's secret?" Emily asked. Ethan thought for a moment. "I used to believe he was perfect. Then I learned that he had been afraid, that he had made mistakes, and that sometimes he protected his own interests." "That does not answer my question."
No.
"I do not regret it. Even when the truth is painful, it is better than a lie." Emily took his hand. "What will you do now, Mr. Millionaire?" "First, I am taking you to dinner. And after that, I will expand the training center at the port until Daniel is released. Lily and I are creating a program for young people who are at risk of being recruited by criminal organizations. Grace will manage the foundation." "And what will you do for yourself?" Ethan could not answer immediately. He had spent most of his life trying to satisfy his father, grow the company, and prove that he deserved his position. Now, for the first time, he felt free to choose his own future. "I will live," he said. "I will not spend my entire life working and collecting money. I will try to truly live." Emily smiled. "That may be your most difficult project. I hope I will not have to do it alone." "Is that a partnership proposal?" "Yes. A much better one than the agreement with Vane Holdings." They laughed beside the sea. Then Ethan's phone received a new message. It had been sent from an unknown number. There was only one photograph. Richard Cole stood beside several people. Victor Vane and Adrian Cross were among them. But at the edge of the photograph stood a woman Ethan had never seen before. A necklace with the red symbol of a chess queen hung around her neck. A message appeared beneath the photograph. "If you believe the crown circle has fallen, you are wrong. Victor was only one member. If you want to learn your father's second secret, come to London." Ethan studied the image. Emily noticed the change in his expression. What happened? Ethan turned off the phone and placed it inside his pocket. A year earlier, he would have reacted with fear or anger. Now, he had learned not to make decisions too quickly. "Another ghost from the past," he said. "Are you going to follow it?" Ethan looked toward the port, the new homes, and the children playing in the square. "One day. But this time, I will not go alone." Emily tightened her grip on his hand. The sun disappeared beneath the horizon. The lights of Harbour City began turning on one by one. Once, fear, corruption, and secret agreements had been hidden behind those lights. The city had not changed completely, but people had finally started to see the truth. Ethan understood that his father's true legacy was not billions of dollars, skyscrapers, or company shares. Richard had left him a choice: to live in fear or confront the truth, to seek revenge or choose justice, to repeat the mistakes of the past or create a new path. Ethan chose the new path. He accepted that his father had not been perfect. He did not forget Daniel's betrayal, but he believed that Daniel had not completely lost his humanity. He did not excuse Adrian's crimes, but he recognized that Adrian had made the right decision when it mattered most. And Ethan promised to transform his wealth from a symbol of power into a tool that could create opportunities for others. The wind from the sea moved his coat. He and Emily walked toward the lights of the city. Behind them were the dark port and the secrets of the past. Ahead of them was a new life. But Ethan knew one thing with absolute certainty. Darkness does not disappear simply because one powerful man is defeated. It returns whenever good people become afraid and remain silent. Ethan would never remain silent again. It did not matter how much wealth, power, or influence his enemy possessed. He would remember the most valuable lesson his father had left him. A person's true worth is not measured by how much money they collect. It is measured by who they choose to protect with their money, power, and opportunities. That night, for the first time in Harbour City's history, a war between a millionaire and a mafia boss ended not in bloodshed, but with the truth being revealed. However, the mysterious message from London proved that the story was not over yet.